They said he wasn't a quarterback. They said his arm wasn't accurate, his mechanics were broken, and his future was at another position. Imagine being told the thing you've worked your whole life for isn't yours anymore. That was the reality facing Lamar Jackson before he ever wore an NFL jersey. The whispers became headlines, the doubts became predictions. Maybe he should run routes instead of throwing passes. That's what analysts and even Hall of Fame voices were saying. He wasn't measured against what he could be, but against what people thought he could never become. Every draft board, every scouting report carried the same label: not a quarterback. But here's the twist. Lamar never blinked. He didn't run from the noise. He didn't try to play safe or change who he was. The same speed they feared, the same creativity they doubted, became the very weapon that would turn him into a nightmare for defenses. They saw flaws. He saw opportunity. Every throw he made, every run he broke, was a message to the critics who tried to write him off before the story even began. And the story only gets more intense when you realize why he was built for this fight in the first place. Because before the NFL, before the draft, Lamar's real battle started in a childhood shaped by loss and survival. Long before the draft questions, Lamar faced something far heavier. At just 8 years old, his world collapsed in a single day. He lost his father and his grandmother within hours of each other. For a child, that kind of loss could have ended everything before it even started. For Lamar, it became the test that shaped him. His mother, Felicia Jones, refused to let that pain destroy her family. She stepped into a role that was bigger than a parent. She became the leader, the teacher, the fighter who held the family together. While others had trainers, advisors, or coaches guiding their path, Lamar had one constant voice: his mom. Critics laughed years later when she acted as his agent, but they missed the truth. She wasn't inexperienced. She was battle-tested. She had raised a boy who had already stared tragedy in the face and kept moving forward. Trust wasn't a weakness in his story, it was his greatest strength. Every hard coaching moment, every lesson in discipline, every push to work harder came from her. She was shaping not just a player, but a survivor. That's why when the NFL questioned if Lamar had the toughness to play quarterback, he never flinched. Life had already forced him to be tougher than the game itself. And that toughness would soon be tested again on the biggest stage of his young career, the night of the draft, when Lamar Jackson waited in the green room longer than anyone expected. Draft night was supposed to be the dream. For most quarterbacks, it's a celebration, a quick walk across the stage, and a handshake with the commissioner. But for Lamar Jackson, it became a spotlight of doubt. One by one, quarterbacks were taken: Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, Josh Rosen. Each name called felt like another reminder of the questions hanging over him. As the cameras panned, Lamar sat in silence. His suit was sharp, his posture calm, but his eyes told the real story. He was the last quarterback in the room, watching the future unfold for others while his own seemed to slip further away. The whispers that haunted him in the months before the draft now echoed louder with every passing pick. Some analysts claimed he didn't deserve the stage at all. Others said maybe he'd be taken on day 2, a gamble at best. The doubt wasn't hidden, it was broadcast live in front of millions. But behind that calm expression, Lamar was storing every slight, every insult for the moment he finally got his chance. Then with the final pick of the first round, the call came. With the 32nd pick, the Baltimore Ravens select Lamar Jackson. The room erupted and the narrative flipped in an instant. The kid, left waiting, became the quarterback who would redefine an entire franchise. But the real challenge was only beginning, because starting out, Lamar wasn't handed the keys. He had to sit behind Joe Flacco and wait once again, until the Ravens had no choice but to unleash him. When Lamar finally stepped on the field, Baltimore wasn't just struggling, they were sinking. Joe Flacco's Ravens were fading, the season was slipping away, and the energy around the team felt dead. But the moment Lamar took over, everything flipped. The stadium roared, and suddenly the Ravens had life again. It wasn't polished, it wasn't perfect, but it was electric. Defenses knew what was coming, and they still couldn't stop it. Every run, every scramble, every daring throw turned into a spark that carried Baltimore forward. In just a few weeks, the rookie nobody believed in had dragged his team from the edge of collapse back into the playoff race. Baltimore's identity changed overnight. Instead of trying to fit Lamar into an old system, the Ravens built around his skill set. They leaned on his legs, trusted his instincts, and discovered something every defense would soon learn. There was no blueprint for stopping Lamar Jackson. By the end of his rookie run, he had not only saved a season, but also forced the league to pay attention. This wasn't just a flash of excitement. This was the beginning of a new era, and where the definition of a quarterback was about to be rewritten. And the rewriting truly began in the very next season. The year Lamar didn't just make noise, he tore the entire league apart. The very next season, Lamar Jackson didn't just take a step forward, he detonated the league. Defenses lined up expecting to slow down a young quarterback, but what they got instead was a player rewriting history week after week. It wasn't just the highlight runs or the broken ankles, it was the way he controlled entire games. In 2019, Lamar led the NFL in passing touchdowns, something almost nobody believed he could do. At the same time, he ran through defenses like no quarterback before him, shattering Michael Vick's single-season rushing record. He finished with over 1,200 yards on the ground, numbers unheard of at the position. The Ravens fed off his energy. They won 14 games, crushed opponents, and looked unstoppable. What made it scarier was the efficiency. He wasn't padding stats. He was destroying teams in 3 quarters and resting by the 4th. Lamar wasn't just beating defenses, he was breaking their spirit. By the end of the year, he was crowned unanimous MVP, only the second player in NFL history to earn every single vote. At just 22 years old, he had forced the NFL to rethink what a quarterback could be. The same voices who once said he should play wide receiver were now speechless. But even as he stood on top of the league, a new truth was about to hit Baltimore, because everything they built around him was fragile, because when Lamar wasn't on the field, the entire team crumbled. For all the dominance Lamar brought to the field, there was one weakness Baltimore couldn't hide. The moment he went down, the team collapsed. With him under center, the Ravens looked like contenders. Without him, they looked ordinary, scrambling for answers that never came. The record spoke louder than any analyst. Baltimore's winning percentage plummeted when Lamar missed games. The offense stalled, the energy faded, and the magic that made the Ravens dangerous disappeared. It wasn't about the playbook or the system. It was clear Lamar was the system. Injuries exposed how thin the roster really was. The receiving groups were underwhelming, the backups couldn't shoulder the load, and no scheme could replace the one player holding everything together. Every time Lamar was sidelined, Baltimore's season felt like it was hanging by a thread. The critics who once said he couldn't play quarterback now twisted their words again, saying maybe he was too reliant on his legs or too risky a trust long-term. But Baltimore knew the truth. When he played, they had a chance against anyone. When he didn't, the season was already over. That reality set the stage for a turning point, because the only way forward was to bet everything on the man who had carried them this far. And Lamar was about to bet on himself too. So here's the plot twist nobody saw coming. Lamar Jackson said, "Forget your agents, I'll do this my way." While other players were signing with big-name reps, Lamar put his trust where it had always been, his mom. And the football world? Oh, they hated it. Unprofessional, risky, bad move. Yeah, sure, funny how those same people got real quiet when he cashed in the biggest deal of his life. $255 million, $185 guaranteed, negotiated without a traditional agent, and the same league that laughed at him now had to pay him like one of the best quarterbacks in football. That's not just a contract, that's revenge written in dollar signs. But Lamar didn't stop at the money. Baltimore finally gave him weapons, Zay Flowers, Odell Beckham Jr., and a new offensive coordinator in Todd Monken. For the first time, it wasn't just Lamar versus the world. The Ravens built a real offense around him. And here's the kicker. The run-first quarterback they doubted? Yeah, he sharpened up as a passer. Faster reads, tighter throws, and surgical precision from the pocket. The same guy they said couldn't last was suddenly leading one of the cleanest, most dangerous attacks in football. Which left one question hanging in the air. After silencing every critic off the field, could Lamar finally silence them in the playoffs? 2 MVPs, record-breaking seasons, highlight reels that made defenses look like JV squads. And yet, there's still one shadow hanging over Lamar Jackson's name: the playoffs. Regular season domination is cool, but January football, that's where legends either rise or get roasted. The critics love to point it out. 3-5 in the postseason. Never made a Super Bowl. Yeah, thanks, we all have Google. But let's be real. Peyton Manning took 9 years to get his first ring. Steve Young sat forever behind Montana before he finally broke through. The story isn't over. It's just waiting for its biggest chapter. And honestly, that's what makes Lamar's legacy so wild. He already redefined the quarterback position. He already forced defenses to rip up their playbooks and start over. Kids now grow up dreaming to play like him, not in spite of the criticism, but because of it. That's impact you can't measure with playoff stats. So the question isn't, can Lamar win in January? The real question is when. Because when he finally does, that trophy won't just erase the old doubts, it'll expose them as some of the worst takes in NFL history. And when that moment comes, no one will be asking if he's a quarterback anymore. They'll be asking how long it took the league to realize he was so much more. Blessings to all my Red Zone Report subscriber family. Your support means everything. Stay tuned, stay sharp, and I'll catch you in the next one.